Welcome everyone. My name is Amanda. I'm a cruise employment specialist. I worked on board cruise ships for 10 years and then was in cruise ship employment and recruitment for another 5 years. And now I operate getalifeatsea.com, where I help people get paid to travel the world. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about how to get free flights and free travel during your vacation time when you're off the ship as a crew member. So let's dive in. So number one, what I always recommend new crew members to do is as soon as the cruise line books your flights to the ship. So usually what will happen is some cruise lines will actually pay for your flights to the ship to join a ship. Some cruise lines will request that you pay for flights to join your initial ship, but they'll always book it for you for the most part. So what you want to make sure you do is get the Air Miles card associated with whatever airline they've booked you with. And cruise lines use like all the major airlines. There isn't a particular airline that they focus upon. So you actually might be flying with a different airline every time you join a ship. But whatever airline that is, make sure you get the Air Miles card, because what will happen is as you do contract after contract, you will start to amass air miles really quickly. And what you can then use those for, which brings me again to point number one, you can use those to book free flights during your time on leave. So again, most contracts, as most of you know, working on board cruise ships are anywhere usually about 6 months. They can be as long as 8 months, they can be as short as 4 months, but generally speaking, you're going to do 6 months on, 2 months off, 6 months back on again. So if you get those Air Miles cards that the cruise line, so the cruise line often, in a lot of cases, will pay for your flights to join your ship, and you can still get the miles for that. So make sure you do that, because you will get to travel and use those on your own during your vacation time, which I've done many times. I think after one of my last contracts, I was in Australia. I came home and then I booked a flight totally on points from Canada to Australia again, and to Singapore as well. All on miles that I'd earned from working on board cruise ships. Number two is what some people do is when they're on board, so they're on board, they're doing their first contract, and it's getting close to the time that they're going to sign off. What they will do is they will go to the crew office and ask to extend in the port that they're going to be leaving the ship in. So for example, there were times where I was signing off in Sydney, Australia, and I had an ongoing flight to go home that the cruise line would provide. However, I wanted to spend a few more weeks in Australia during my vacation time. So what I would do is go down to the crew office, ask for them to push back my ticket home to Canada for 2 to 3 weeks, and then I would stay and travel in Australia for a few weeks after I got off the ship. So that is sometimes a possibility as a crew member. It's not always a possibility, particularly if you're getting off the ship as a crew member in the US. The US Customs really doesn't like it if crew members get off the ship if they're not from the US and stay in the US. So there may be some restrictions, but it's definitely it's no harm in asking. So that's another way that you can kind of get free travel during your vacation time paid for by the cruise line, just by postponing your ticket home when you get off the ship. And then number three is actually requesting to be paid while on leave. Now, for most entry-level positions, this is not going to be a possibility. The only time you're going to get paid on leave is when you work up to a managerial or supervisory level. So I was not getting paid during my leave time with cruise ships until I had moved up to a training and development manager position 5 years in of my 10 years on board. But at that point, I was getting my monthly salary from the cruise line, and I was also being paid during my 2-month leave. So I was working on board for 4 months, and I was getting off the ship for 2 months and coming back on board. I was actually getting paid my full salary the whole year. So if you're in a managerial or supervisory role, or you're going through the application process for that kind of level of position, each cruise line will deal with that in a slightly different way. So you want to make sure that that's something that you think about, and something definitely to bring up if you are applying for that kind of role later on in the interview process. As it's a great question to ask: will I actually be paid on leave or not? And sometimes it's yes and sometimes it's no, but it's definitely a good idea to keep that in mind as a possibility. So there you go. Those are the 3 things that I wanted to talk about getting free travel during your off time when you're off the ship, when you're finished your contract. I hope you enjoyed this video, and be sure to follow me on all my other platforms. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, LinkedIn, Periscope, of course. So make sure you follow me there, and make sure if you haven't already taken the cruise ship quiz, which tells you in 30 seconds or less if a life at sea is for you, make sure you check that out. You can go to getalifeatsea.com/cruise ship quiz. And thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you next time.